we listening? Are we listening? Cora's ready for the story. Sophia's ready for the story. It looks like table 1, for the most part, is ready for the story. I'll send it. Show me. Okay. Long ago in a village in Japan, there lived an old man and his wife who, more than anything, wanted a child. Sound familiar so far? Mm-hmm. Yeah. They hoped and they wished, and they went to the temple and prayed to the gods. May we be blessed with a child, they said, even if he is no larger than our thumbs. And then their prayers were answered. In 9 months' time, a fine baby boy was born to the old couple. The child was lovely and very small. They called him Issun Boshi, which means what?
1-inch boy.
1-inch boy, for he was no taller than his father's thumb. So, what other characters have we read about that have the name Thumb in them? Thumbelina.
There's gotta be a big is.
That's okay, I'll get you some help. So we have Thumbelina and Kinsley? Tom Thumb. So we have Thumbelina, Tom Thumb, and Issun Boshi, which means what? 1-inch boy, which means that he was no bigger than the thumb. Okay, Issun Boshi grew up strong, smart, and helpful. Evelyn? Though he grew no bigger. When 12 years had passed, how many years? 12 years had passed. Issun Boshi came to his parents and said, Father and Mother, please give me your permission to go to the capital city, for I wish to see the world, learn many things, and make a name for myself. So he asked his parents for permission. So he wanted to ask so they could tell him he could do something. His parents were very worried, scared to think of all the bad things that could happen to Issun Boshi in such a large city. But they knew their boy was smart and strong, so they agreed to let him go. They made him a tiny sword out of a sewing needle, and they also gave him a rice bowl for a boat and some chopsticks for oars. So people in Japan use chopsticks instead of forks. Has anyone seen those?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in the rice bowl, he floated down the river, using the chopsticks as paddles. When the water became rough, he using his sword to catch fish. So he used his paddles when the water became rough, and then he used his sword to catch fish. He didn't use his sword to paddle. In a few days, he arrived at the city of Kyoto.
What is it?
So Kyoto
I've been there before.
was the capital of Japan. Today, the capital is called Tokyo. So Tokyo, I think it's Kyoto. Now forgive me, I'm not very good at pronouncing things. Lily, when I have you turn around, your chair's going to be right here. I gotta move it. There.
My grandma's mom lives.
Okay. My, what a busy city this is, he thought. So many people were crammed, show me kind of crammed, or packed into one space. Oh, what's this? He walked carefully through the streets, dodging, that should be a dodge, dodging, good, dodging feet, because remember how tall is he? He's tiny, so do you think he may be afraid not of getting his foot stepped on, but him getting stepped on, right? So he's dodging feet and cartwheels, and wheels and carts. He kept walking until he came to a beautiful house, the largest in the city. At the foot of the steps sat a pair of shiny black get-up or wooden shoes. They belonged to the owner of the house, who was the wealthiest lord in the city. The door of the great house opened. Out walked a man who put on the shiny black shoes. Issun Boshi called out, "Hello, hello there!" The man looked around and seeing no one began to go back in. So he kind of looked this way. He's like, where's that voice coming from? Like, what? Looks around, but Issun Boshi called out, "Down here! I'm down here near your shoes. Please be careful you don't step on me." The man who was the lord of the house leaned down and was astonished. Everybody show me astonished. Astonished when he saw Issun Boshi. The lord was surprised to see someone so small. Issun Boshi bowed and politely introduced himself. "My name," he said, "is Issun Boshi. I've just arrived in the city, and I would like to work for you." The Lord picked up Issun Boshi in the palm of his hand. In a friendly voice, he asked, "But what can a little fellow like you do?" A fly was buzzing around and bothering the Lord, so Issun Boshi drew out his sewing needle sword, and with a quick swat, away went the fly. How does Issun Boshi help the Lord? Raise your hand. Zayla, how does he help? Yeah, he just killed the fly who was buzzing around bugging him. He was killed with his sword, his sewing needle. "You are quite an amazing little fellow," laughed the Lord. "Come, you may work with me and live in my house." And so, tiny Issun Boshi went to live in the big, beautiful house, serving the noble Lord. He made friends with everyone there, especially the princess, the Lord's lovely daughter. It seemed that he was always at her side, helping her in whatever way he could, whether by holding down the paper that she wrote when she wrote a letter, or simply by riding on her shoulder and keeping her company while she walked through the beautiful gardens around the house. In time, the princess came to feel strong affection towards her little helper. So, what characters do we know so far? Who do we know so far? Kinsley. Issun Boshi. Who else? Sophia? Boshi, sorry. What? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear Sophia because there's other voices. One more time. The princess, good. Grace?
Issun Boshi's mom and dad.
Good. His parents? Cora? Whose house are they in? Who's called the Lord of the house? The Lord is that. The Lord, when they say the Lord, it's the person who owns the big giant house. Okay, I believe you. So, how was his journey to Kyoto? How did his journey go to Kyoto? Was it as crazy as some other stories we've seen? Probably not, but it was still pretty crazy. He had to paddle to get there. It was a long journey.
Me and
Would
Emily
you
have
agree?
the same brains.
Seems like it sometimes. Okay. Nash, which way should you be facing? Okay. So, how does Issun Boshi help the princess? How does he help the princess? Caitlin.
That's a big thing.
Good. And what else? Evelyn?
Yeah, keeps her company.
Good. He keeps her company. Good job. In the spring, Issun Boshi traveled with the princess and her companions to a cherry blossom festival. On their way home, they began to hear strange noises behind them on the narrow road. They could see nothing in the shadows when suddenly a huge monster leaped into their path. Everyone screamed and ran, everyone except for Issun Boshi and the princess. "Who are you and what do you want?" cried Issun Boshi. "I am Oni," growled the monster. And Oni were the Oni were terrible creatures who bothered the townspeople. But Issun Boshi stepped forward and shouted, "Get out of the way, you demon! I am here to guard the princess. Step back." Even though Issun Boshi is a small person, he stands up to the Oni. So what would you do if you were Issun Boshi? Now remember, how big is Issun Boshi? No bigger than the thumb. So what would you do, Mason?
He's way bigger than I found in the store in the pictures. Beat him up. Beat him up.
You're trying to beat him up? Okay, Nash.
I would use my sword and stab his eye.
Okay, you go for the eye? Okay, that's a weak point. That's a fair. He'd use his little tiny needle sword. Okay, and one more, Rogelio.
You can probably go in his mouth.
Oh, you probably fit in his mouth. Ouch. Y'all are dangerous. Oh, but wait, let's listen here. Are we ready for this?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. One of your predictions is correct. Let's see. Ready? Are we listening? Ha! We'll see about that, growled the Oni. He snatched up Issun Boshi, popped him in his mouth, and gulp, swallowed him whole. Down Issun Boshi slid until he landed plop in the Oni's stomach. Let's review a little bit. What did he slide down? His esophagus. Good job.
Our bodies looks like.
Okay, ready?
What did he stab his?
We'll see what happens. This Oni should be more careful about what he eats, said Issun Boshi. He pulled out his sewing needle sword and began to tickle the Oni's stomach. Ow! Ooh! Ugh! Shouted the Oni. And then he gave a loud burp, and it popped out Issun Boshi. The Oni ran away, burping the whole way. So how does Issun Boshi defeat the Oni?
He tickles him.
How does he defeat him? I love how I see some raised hands. Jimmy, how does he defeat him? He tickles him from where? From his
Stomach.
From his stomach.
Or his esophagus.
He went down his esophagus into his stomach. Okay, ready? Oh, 3, 2, 1. Issun Boshi ran over to the princess. She was bending down and picking something up from the ground. With great excitement, she said, "Look, Issun Boshi, the Oni was so scared he dropped this magic hammer. If you make a wish on it, it will come true." Issun Boshi bowed to the princess and said, "My lady, I would ask that you make a wish." "No, Issun Boshi," said the princess. "You won this because of your bravery. You should be the first one to wish on it." Let's see, I'm going to ask 3 people, what are your predictions on what Issun Boshi will ask for? I'm going to ask 3 people, and everyone else, I want you to keep your guesses to yourself. 3 people. Idalia. Okay, one more time. Oh, you think he'll wish to get big? Okay, so she thinks that he'll wish to get big.
That's
To be
what
a
I
normal
was
size?
gonna say.
Does anyone have, and if you have the same thing, this is what you do. Thank you. I see quite a few people think that. I'm going to call on 2 more who think differently. Mason?
Get a bow and arrow.
A bow and arrow, so probably something better than the needle sword. Okay, so we have getting big, getting a bow and arrow. I'm going to call 1 more person. Zaylee?
Maybe.
I haven't
Everybody like working on everybody.
Okay, so we already said getting big, so remember we gotta, but, okay, let's listen. Let's listen. So Issun Boshi took the hammer and said, "I already have my greatest wish, which is to serve you." Yes. Which is to serve you. Which is who's he talking to?
The princess.
The princess. Which is to serve you. But if I could have another wish, I would wish to be taller. Thumbs up if you thought right. Good. Then he gave the hammer to the princess, who made a silent wish on it to herself. Well, I'm going to call on three people. What do you think the princess wished for? What do you think the princess wished for? Nash.
Maybe get married.
Oh, maybe get married. Okay, so we have get married. Okay, we're looking for two other guesses. Rohalia?
Maybe get a unicorn.
Maybe get a unicorn. Okay, and Kinsley?
No.
Maybe for a boat.
Like a bouquet of flowers? Okay.
I be an animal.
Oh, so
That's question now.
then and there,
Say 10.
I already said, hey, what did I say to do if I didn't call on you? Keep your answers to yourself. Then and there, Issun Boshi began to grow taller. So that was his wish, remember? That night, when the princess told her father how brave Issun Boshi had been and how he had risked his life to save her, the Lord was so happy that he gave Issun Boshi permission to marry the princess.
Which one?
And so you see, the princess's wish came true too.
You.
So who said to get married?
You said you wanted to get.
Nash, wasn't that your guess?
Yeah. Me and her thought the
Yeah,
same
because she
thing.
did this. Yeah, so thumbs up if you thought the same thing. Good job. Issun Boshi's brave deeds were celebrated throughout the land. He and the princess lived happily ever after, along with Issun Boshi's proud and happy parents.
I'm hungry.
Whom Issun Boshi had brought to the Lord's house to be part of the new family. So who was brought to the Lord's house?
Issun Boshi.
Issun Boshi's who?
Father.
Father and mother, his parents.
Issun
So,